seem to have it for now, for whatever reason, but be that as it may, this is the day we said we'll respond to a week-long, sustained attacks. Actually, this started some time ago. Let me first start by saying why chapter were established through the Chapter 9 of the Constitution and, of course, the CRL Rights Act. Our mandate is very clear. We're supposed to promote and protect communities. We were established to deal with communities and not religious communities, and in particular, Christians, because that's where we are for today. But we'll be inviting you further for other religious activities and other cultural issues, for instance, on initiation, etc., and other linguistic issues. We lawfully established Section 22 committee because we do not have proper electricity. We must say we're going to put up all the evidence on our Facebook page, because we're saying we, as a Chapter 9 institution, cannot deal with rumors and allegations, etc. We have an obligation to deal with hardcore facts. We'll start with a rather difficult situation. I don't know, Mpiake, if they've got these documents. Okay, we received a document that was sent allegedly to the media, journalists, giving them questions to ask me in particular. Maybe let me start by saying we suspect no one. We don't know whether this was deliberately done in order for us to start looking around the room and saying, who got this list of questions? Who's going to ask us about this list of questions? Most of you were still young, but these are stratcom tendencies where we're made to not trust one another. But I'm here to say we trust all of you. We think we are people. We've worked with some of you. You've showed us you're not scared of asking us questions. You have asked us questions when we're at press conferences without any other external people telling you what to ask us. What is difficult for us is that what freedom of religion South Africa has done in terms of sending these questions to whomsoever, even compiling the questions with follow-up questions, has proven that the agenda is very clear. They want to disrupt anything that we do. They want to make sure that they frustrate the work of a Chapter 9 institution. And I think the media should ask them what was their role in Professor Ulu's press conference. Who facilitated it? Who paid for it? When we want to give facts on what are the real facts behind his resignation, which he didn't touch on. He stated untruths. Our worry is that, you know, as a Chapter 9 institution, we are there to protect the whole of the Constitution. Section 16 talks to everyone has the right to freedom of expression, which includes freedom of the press and other media. We stand by those rights. We have always been available to the media to ask us any questions. Once someone says to the media, ask her this question, if this was supposed to be the first document that you get as journalists, Mpiake, I hope you've got this thing in front of them, because it's very revealing. It actually says that FOSA doesn't trust you that you know how to do your job. They need to tell you what to ask, how to ask, what follow-up questions will be there. We're going to put up their email on our Facebook page. So I'd like to encourage people to go there and judge for themselves how far these people are willing to go. They will stop at nothing. What is our problem? Why are they having a problem with us? We have said consistently, we stand with the victims. People who are being violated by religious leaders. This has nothing to do with the Bible, the doctrine, everything. We've consistently said so to the media. Some of you have been with us for years, from as early as in my first term, 2014 to 2019. The struggle has always been going to church should not be a dodgy situation. Your rights, as in the Bill of Rights, should be protected. Your right to life, your right to human dignity. Those are non-negotiable. And if you go into a church and your human dignity is violated, there's a problem. FOSA and their friends have always said there are enough laws. There are issues of ethics here. There are issues of people being in situations where they don't even realize that they're being lied to. They're being told that God said, I must sleep with you. That's not a criminal act, but it's an ethical act, a moral act. And that's why when we established this committee, we said the moral regeneration movement should be part of this process, which is here represented by Ubabu Mvambo, Nobabu Ndombe. So we're dealing with issues of ethics, we're dealing with issues of doing the right thing. FOSA has crossed the line totally by not trusting you here in this room, by treating you like children, to say you don't know how to do this thing, let us show you how to do it. Ask this and then follow up with that and then follow up with that. That's a violation of freedom of the press. People were arrested, people were murdered. A lot happened to get to these rights. They were not just rights from heaven. People paid dearly, and those rights are being shredded to pieces by an NGO consisting of less than 10 people, who can then violate and do whatever and say whatever. We have taken the responsibility to report this to SANEF, to Press Council, and to the Press Ombudsman, because we feel it is a serious violation. we've submitted our complaint about that particular document. We'll definitely put it up when we have. I thought we would start with that so that we clear the air. But so that I can also say, you've done nothing wrong. Even if they emailed you the document or whatever, the problem is not with you. The problem is with them for saying they will do anything and everything to get her out. That is me. They've marched to the union buildings, Kaluva must go. They've marched to Parliament, Kaluva must go. They are obsessed. Go to the Facebook of church defenders, South African church defenders. They have a poster of me there that I was hoping to fly here, where I'm alleged to have said, take out your underwear and wave it to the angels, and the angels will wave back at you. Fortunately, I remember that we dealt with this thing when one Pastor Mboro said that and everyone was waving, and there's even a video we're going to show you. We'll put it up in on our Facebook, because these people will stop at nothing. They'll crop videos and say, I said, anyone who says God speaks to them is mad. Take it out of context when I said Omotoso and his kind, who were saying, actually I said that in court. If you look at the video, I'm in court during the Omotoso case, after evidence had been laid that he used to tell his victims that God said to me, you must sleep with me. That's not the God I pray to. That's not the God I know. That's a fake God. And if he's hearing those things, he needs help. I still stand by that. So let's come back to how much this damage means in terms of ethical conduct. Because this is a matter of ethics as well. We need to start saying, how far should people go in opposing you? My question is, how many NGOs, how many whatever, are telling people what questions to ask? That is unconstitutional because it goes against Section 16 of the Constitution. So I'll hand over to my brother here from the Moral Regeneration Movement to talk a bit about what does this mean in terms of ethics. Babu said.
Let me correct that. Yes, colleagues, I thought I should invite this House that as we are busy as a Christian church fighting each other and all that, something very terrible is happening in our country. 12 children died on the road. Mpumalanga and Limpopo is flooded. South Africa is a situation now lately where when there is death or killing, it's not one person, but big numbers. I thought the church would be focusing on this by now, praying for South Africa. Can we just preempt this? And I'm going to request, I did this in our committee yesterday, and I'm repeating it here with you. May we all please just observe a moment of silence and just to bring into the fold what is happening in our country. May we all stand and just observe a moment of silence. God bless South Africa. Amen.
Amen.
Colleagues, another disclaimer is that I am not Mfundisi. You should know better. But we are part of the Section 22 committee, and our focus mainly is issues of values. And we will continue to support any organization and work with any structure on those issues. And these are the issues that are also embedded in the principles and the values of our Constitution. Our Constitution in this country doesn't only sit on constitutional principles, it also sits on the values that goes with the Constitution. Let that be noted. Let us note further that this is the 30th anniversary of the very Constitution that we are wrangling about. And this is also the 50th anniversary of June 16, 1976. One of the struggles that brought about the values the Constitution we are protecting and we are promoting. This is also the 70th year of the Women's March, and whilst a woman is being attacked, or the women are being attacked, you can even take it to GBF, GBV and F. Now, colleagues, when I was requested by the committee to focus on this issue, and I'm not going to be long, I felt there was a total insult and undermine of your profession. The ethics and behavior of the ethical and behavior of your profession. By the way, it is well pronounced in what you also call a self-regulatory policy. Your SANEF, when the Christian faith says they don't want that, you are actually under that code of ethics. And it is that code of ethics that some of the principles speak of seeking the truth and report it. Are we there? Not prepare questions and then report on them. I was strong yesterday in our meeting with the committee that this is something that you, in your profession, and in the dignity and respect of your profession, should be taking up, not us. And maybe us can take it up at some point, and we did it as we reported to SANEF and other bodies that are related to this. And again, defending your profession, and you might not need us to defend your profession. We believe you're capable of defending your profession and the values that go with it. What was interesting also is that the other value that comes up strong in principle in the principles of your ethical code is the principle of acting independently. Now, when some organization sits somewhere and then prepares these questions for you, what are they saying? You don't have the skill, you don't have the ways and means of gathering information so that then you can ask her and ask the Section 22 committee. Is this the pattern that we are up to when we are going to have to be running away from ethical issues? And when these ethical issues surfaces, then you use another way that is unethical to challenge. I know, I don't want to be, there's one of our members who was said to be racist, and I don't want to be quoted as racist, but it hurts. I'm sitting here in this boardroom. Please look around. Please look around. I see black people. is that politicking. The truth of the matter is that the challenge we faced with, and the challenge now that is moving slightly away from the issues, church, that is now moving out, that is now including you. I am famous as, actually notorious as an instigator of 1976. I don't want to be said that I've instigated you. and Robben Island is closed now, so I don't know where will I go. But colleagues, one of the things that then comes up as an ethical issue here is that any person who gets this particular questions that are prepared for you, then the community that you're serving, the people that you're serving, questions your integrity and your professionalism. Is that fair? Is that fair to your profession? You know, I was saying to Obangwenya, in the days of apartheid, people fought against being manipulated in the space of media. That is why there was a formation of a union called UBJ, Union of Black Journalists. Judy Mayet and others served in that body. That was the resistance when people are starting to want to manipulate press to pursue their policies. Later on, it was Muaza. And I am pleading with this meeting, and I'm pleading with this press conference, that now let not your profession be made to be unethical. Your principles also, and the principles that are associated with your ethics, is strong on this, that now you are serving the people of South Africa. You are not serving a person or a particular organization. As this Section 22 committee, myself acting on their behalf on this issue, ethics and values, we can only be able to take up this issue with the structures that are supporting and monitoring you. But yet it's not you who actually has done this, but a particular structure that is using you to fight its wars. I'm appealing to you that please don't allow yourselves in that space. Don't get into that space. And actually, this is a total abuse of not only the Constitution, but also the ethics in your practice and profession. I would have gone further, but Chair, I want to say, as this happens, it said to me, again I refer to Opa. Opa is one of the journalists that write a lot about the history of this country. I can tell you, wherever Percy Kawoza is, wherever Willie Bukala is, wherever Julie Mayet is, wherever Sophie Dima is, he should be shaking when they read this. I'm not trying to take you to an emotional state, but I'm just trying to say, please note that we are aware of this, and we are not blaming it on you, but we are also saying we will fight that we make sure that your ethical part and also your constitutional rights are protected. Chair, may I pause?
Thank you. Okay. Thanks a lot, Bab Mazibuko. At least I won't say Reverend. Okay, thanks a lot. What we're going to do is to give you a chronology of what happened when, with documentary proof. We were going to beam it up, now we can't do that, but we assure you that by the time you leave, even if it means we go across the road to go and print out, you will have all the documentary proof. The reality we're faced with is that as a Chapter 9 institution, we need to rely on legalities and documentation and proof beyond reasonable doubt more than an individual who calls a press conference and can recite anything back to front. I'll start on 6 February 2025. This commission started on the 1st of January 2025. We were appointed to start on the 1st of January by the President. We're the 5th commission. In our first sitting, I don't know if you've got this document in your packs, those that have packs, but I'm going through this document with you. It will also be posted on our Facebook. The 5th commission, in its first sitting, had a fully constituted plenary of 12 commissioners. The DC and myself are commissioners before we were anything else, what deputy chair or chairperson. We had first a strat plan for 2 days where we're deciding on what are we going to do, how are we going to do it, when are we going to do it. It was resolved that a Section 22 committee will be established there at the plenary of 6 February 2025. This was a unanimous decision. Normally, how plenary runs, there are proposals that we should do this or that, or maybe there's a report that is tabled, and then the question is asked around the room. Are there any objections? Our Act says we must reach consensus on issues. On this particular issue of Section 22, the same question was asked. Are there any objections to this proposal? The proposal also included a proposed chairperson. Okay, no objections from the 12 commissioners. Okay, is there a mover? There was a mover. Is there a seconder? A seconder is here in the room. The deputy chair was the seconder. You will get that minute so that you know beyond reasonable doubt. I see Ufosa is assuming that there were commissioners who objected to this, and in their note to journalists, they are saying, ask her who are those commissioners, what did they object about? Was it a constitutional issue? Why were they objecting? I can say to you here, no one objected. Fortunately, we record these meetings. So if people out there in their quest to do whatever are saying there are commissioners who did not agree, it's part of disinformation. Everyone in the room agreed, and this is a binding decision until plenary takes an alternative decision that will then be voted on. So this illusion that Professor Kulu even names one commissioner who he says does not agree. That's not how democracy works. That's not how governance works. So it's his creation. The matter was discussed and agreed upon. The only thing that was left was to implement the issue. 11 February 2025, the executives of the CRL Rights Commission, that's the chair and deputy chair, together with the chairpersons of the CRL internal Section 22 committees, held a press conference informing the nation about its 5-year plan, of which the setting up of the Section 22 Committee for Different Religions was one of the approved projects. It was indicated that the Commission was going to commence with Section 22 on the Christian sector. Moreover, it was announced Prof. Musakulu was going to head this committee. There were 3 commissioners there. Commissioner Mantula as the chairperson of the Investigations and Conflict Resolution Committee was at that press conference. You can go check your archives. Commissioner Peto was at that press conference. And Commissioner Makoboga was at that press conference. Commissioner Peto is the chairperson of the research, Section 22 internal. Commissioner Makoboga is the chairperson of public education and advocacy. This was done to make sure that the decisions of plenary are taken through to the nation, and the people responsible are there to say this decision was taken. So if other people are now saying other things, well, I don't know where that comes from. You can go and check Kulu's ramblings, and then you can check which commissioner is said to be not agreeing, and maybe that commissioner can tell you when that happened, how it happened, and why it happened. What I will tell you is that as a Chapter 9 institution, we use governance methodology, we use good governance. We cannot move away from good governance. We're stuck there. Things have to be procedural. Professor Musakulu, 15 April, we're now in 15 April. Professor Musakulu was officially appointed as chairperson of the Section 22 Committee, effective from 15 April 2025, in a letter dated 25 April 2025. We will also make the letter of appointment of Professor Kulu to you, probably before they leave, even if you go to Gender Commission across the road. He was accordingly introduced before the nation in a press briefing held on 15 April 2025. The draft terms of reference were also released. These were the draft terms of reference pending the establishment of the Section 22 Committee, who were then going to make input. The CRL Rights Commission had, this is between March and September 2025. The CRL Rights Commission had consultation meetings with various mega churches, Christian umbrella bodies, and formations like your fraternals, etc. The intent of these meetings was to inform them of the position of CRL on self-regulation, the formation of Section 22 for the Christian sector, and inviting some of them to be part of the Section 22 committee. This was a longish process. As you can see, it happened between March and September, because we had to meet on a one-on-one with the leadership of the various mega churches and umbrella organizations. It is important to note that Professor Musakulu was part of some consultation meetings, especially in KZN. In his, whatever, I don't know what to call his press conference, he says, people just appear here without knowing why are they here. He knows pretty well that is not true. This was a long process, and we followed through with it. And then 1 October, the Section 22 committee was convened by the CRL Commission for its first meeting. This was the first meeting where everyone was in the same room. In this meeting, the CRL gave a rationale and background behind, the formation of the Section 22 committee. In addition, the draft terms of reference, this draft was discussed and members gave inputs that were accordingly effected overnight. Professor Kulu was part of this meeting and discussions and amendments. In his press conference, he says, as he was going up the stairs, he was suddenly given this document that he had never seen before. We have documentary proof that he was in the room the whole day when the amendments were being made and they were effected, and because the terms of reference is the responsibility of the CRL Rights Commission, they had to be signed by the chairperson of the CRL Rights Commission. He finds fault with that. Unfortunately, he is not the chairperson of the CRL Rights Commission. So in his ramblings, he says, as I was going up, some fellow rushed to me with a paper I had never seen before. That is untrue. He knew what the process was. And then 2 October, the CRL launched the Section 22 committee on 2 October 2026. It was a closed media launch. The committee members, we did this at Rhema Bible Church. We're given a room that accommodates about 200 people. And we had guests we had invited. I'm sure some of you will remember that His Grace, the Bishop Barnabas Likanyano was also there at the launch. In a closed media launch, the committee members were introduced before the nation. As part of his speech, Professor Kulu also read out the terms of reference of the committee as worked on and agreed to by all Section 22 committee members. During the launch, the matter of gender representation was raised. I'm sure most of you are aware that most structures and leaders seconded males to this committee. This is not unusual. This is a reflection of how religion works, how Christianity works, etc. And we're not going to fight with that. We're not going to start a war on, no, we don't want these men, send them back, we want women. That's not useful. We then said right there that we're committed to look at this matter and we're going to look at co-option of other relevant women. This we did. And then there was a meeting on 31 October 2025. A Section 22 committee meeting chaired by Professor Musa Kulu was held on 30 to 31 October 2025. He was chairing this meeting, I came in briefly because I had to discuss the issue of we are looking at co-option and what do the members think. The members gave us a mandate to say, bring in women who are Christians and true believers. And I said to them, we will find those women. And these are women I think will not fall when the pushback starts. We brought in warriors. Reverend Khololo, Apostle Nosipho from my hometown in Cape Town. Unfortunately, Dr. Jones had another commitment, and also Dr. Jones, a prayer warrior, whom I've been praying with for many years now, even during COVID, when churches were closed, we used to meet, even at the union buildings, social distancing. So we brought in women who are believers. He says these women just came in from the air. That's how he has become. He has decided to walk away from reality and the truth. And this meeting of 30 and 31, when he says to you he has never chaired any meeting, well, I wasn't there, so I'm going to ask Dr. Maloma, who was present in all those meetings, so that I don't rely on rumor mongering and hearsay. And he can tell you what happened after I had left in like less than 30 minutes. Over to you, Doctor.
Thank you very much, Chair. And is it now still good morning to colleagues? Speaking on behalf of Section 22 Committee, the meeting of the 30 to 31st October was our very, very first meeting as a committee since the launch on the 2nd. So we met to map a way forward in terms of how we're going to operate. It's the very first meeting where our chair, Professor Kulu, chaired for 2 full days on those days. And I must say from the script that unfortunately the meeting did not focus on even trying to find out who the individuals are and what are their qualifications and what are their experiences, what is the leadership background and so on. But then Prof, I think he thought that was not necessary. I'm saying this upfront because sometimes this is what causes breakups in meetings when you don't recognize people for what they are. Sometimes some of our colleagues, they wear traditional wear and you may think they have not gone to school. And sometimes some of us who are charismatics, if you say you're a doctor, it is assumed that you got an honorary doctorate from an unknown university. So people don't ask. So nonetheless, we met and we were individually given tasks, all of us, to try and begin to draft a framework discussion document. And Reverend Merani was assigned to look at the preamble, which was very important in order to strengthen the terms of reference. I was given the task to look at the problem statement. This we were given at 4 o'clock on the 30th, so that we don't sleep, we work on these documents. Reverend Khanyani was given the task to work on the guidelines for the framework. Advocate Lizwi Mwabe and the brothers that are with us were tasked to formulate a statement of faith, theological statement justifying why they are Christian. And I think they humbly took the task. And Ntate Mazbuku, I'm afraid to say comrade, Seth Mazbuku was asked to work on the ethics. Pastor Macaulay was going to work on how we support churches. And on top of that, he was going to invite a guest that he recommended that he will tell us how you support communities. And the secretariat was established that will support us. And the following day, we came back, we made representations. Reverend Meran was the first one. It was robustly engaged, discussed, amended, inputs were made, and I made a presentation. It went the same way. Everybody that were given task, we presented as asked. The challenge became towards the end of the day, or the second day, when the chair then asked us to submit all these presentations to him so that he can factor them into his document. And the committee felt no individual must be given the right to edit the Section 22 committee documents alone. And then a discussion ensued, and then under his chairmanship, an editorial committee was elected. That included myself, Pastor Josh Macaulay, Reverend Peter Khanyani, and Advocate Lizwi Mwani. And our task was very urgent because it was Friday. We were instructed that by Monday we should have a document compiled so that he can then factor it into his document. Up to that point, we have not asked, what is this document you are talking about? However, we spent the whole weekend, we came up with a draft discussion document, and I then, as a chair of that subcommittee, I forwarded it to him on Sunday, and he did not respond. I then posted it on the group on Monday, I think our chair really lost it because he attacked that document as flimsy, as weak, as theologically unsound, biblically unsound. And the members were also responding to say, but why are you saying this? Why substantiate what you're talking about? And then why, if you have a document, didn't you disclose to us that you have a document? Because our terms of reference did not mention that we are going to be given a chairperson who comes with a document. We were told that the first terms of reference is that we must develop a discussion document that pastors can engage with during our consultation process. We were not aware of any document. So it became chaotic, became very chaotic. The WhatsApp messages are there. If those who are interested in records, we can make it available. But ultimately, I had to, together with others, we had to approach the chair of CRL to say, the committee is collapsing. The chair is not with us. He's got his document. We have our document. He feels our document is stupid. It won't stay the test of time. Even if we have advocates in that committee, it doesn't matter. So we reported to the chair. We did not go behind him and in secret. Reported to her, and I went back to the committee, WhatsApp, to say, Prof, I've reported you to the chair because we are collapsing the committee. And the reasons why we reported to you is that we are strongly for this document. You seem to have your own document. You have not disclosed it to us. So now we need the chair to come and intervene. And I think, Chair, that the next pages you can briefly then go through. I think that has to do with you. Following that.
And that was 31st of October. And then I received complaints from some members of the Section 22 Committee on Prof. Ulu's conduct. The complaints were on his leadership style of dictatorship, undermining and disregarding inputs from members, and disrespectful rants on the committee's WhatsApp group. I immediately asked the secretariat to shut down the WhatsApp group because that is where he was ranting and raving. So the WhatsApp group was shut on that day. I then engaged Professor Ulu about the allegations made by some members, and that I'm going to intervene. I'm not going to allow this committee to disintegrate because of him. And then on the 7th of November, I then wrote to all the members to say, I've been made aware of the challenges and that we are going to have an urgent meeting to find out what is happening. So that message was sent through, and then Professor Kulu will make his letter available to you because we want you to see the sequence of events. His letter is dated 9th November. He's writing to me after I clearly said, I'll just read a few highlights for you because I'm trying to check with you, not trying, I'm checking with you as to when the breakdown totally happened. He says, greetings, Honorable Madam Chair. I greet you in the holy name of Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. Let me start by commending you for the good work you are doing at the CRL Rights Commission as its chair. Secondly, let me commend you for appointing me as the chairperson of the CRL Rights Commission Section 22 Committee for the Christian sector, which appointment was done through a letter dated 25 April 2025. This has been and continues to be highly appreciated by me and my small circle of academics, clergy, professionals, and intellectuals. The Lord bless you and keep you. 9 November, I'm this good person. I've already told him people are complaining about you, but he comes back to say, oh, thank you very much, we are kind. Further down, we're going to get this letter, definitely. My view, based on current and previous research, is that whatever is put out there as a draft consultation document must be based on a sound scriptural, church history, a theological, ecclesiastical, and ecumenical foundation without it being denominational. He says self-regulation and codes of conduct in the Christian sector is as old as the church itself. So, as late as 9 November, is all for self-regulation. He's all for a code of conduct. And then he says, there has been 1 or 2 instances when we do in academia, I ask 1 or 2 theologians to check for me whether what I have written makes sense They start asking others as well, resulting in unauthorized leaks. One of the things I had asked him was, I hear rumors that there's a white paper here, Prof. I don't know anything about a white paper. I remember at some point we're in Parliament at the Cocktail Portfolio Committee, and the issue of the white paper was raised, and this legislative framework. I clearly said to them, I know nothing as the chairperson of the CRL Rights Commission about a white paper. This was the first time when I got an inkling that there's something that has been given to his friends behind everyone's back. This thing that he's been sharing with his friends, we're going to give you just the front page of it because we feel we should deal with what worried me the most when I got to see this. This thing of his has a CRL letterhead. It's unauthorized by the CRL. It's his private thing that he says he's been sharing with his friends. But he has stolen, I'll say it again, when you illegally use a logo of any company, let alone a Chapter 9 institution, and you pretend as if this document belongs to that particular Chapter 9 institution, it then made sense to me why everyone else is saying there's a white paper. We've received court papers here from the South African Church Defenders, from those that call themselves the Muslim Lawyers Association of South Africa, talking to this white paper. Probably because they saw a logo and they think the CRL already has a plan. His paper says, draft framework for the draft legislation for preventing harmful spiritual transgressions by establishing a religious peer review council in South Africa. The CRL has no mandate to draft legislation. We can recommend to Parliament that we need a particular legislation. We can plan that there should be legislation, but drafting legislation, there are experts who do that. We don't do that. One of the things which were part of recommending Deputy Chair is the issue of the Customary Initiation Act. The CRL was in full support of that. We didn't develop the legislation, but we promoted the idea of legislation. So he went and stole the logo and then put it up as a CRL document. The relationship is breaking down, as you can tell. And then in November, 31 October to 2 November, I received complaints. 7, I call a meeting. 9, he writes this nice letter to me, but he starts talking about something that him and his friends have been working on. The meeting on 25 November happens. In this meeting, the chairperson of the commission distanced the commission from any white paper or any draft framework for the draft legislation for preventing harmful transgressions by establishing a religious peer review council in South Africa. Any document talking to that, I said it in front of the Section 22 committee members that we are distancing ourselves. I remember I even said jokingly to them, actually I can even take a lie detector test at this point to prove that I know nothing. And then I left the meeting of the 25th November. I went there to clarify that this is not from us. I remember there was this emergency he had created that you need to finish this thing and finish it now. I clearly said there are no deadlines in your document. You yourself as the Section 22 committee will determine the deadline. You need a document that you will all agree to. And I said, I gave an analogy of, old and housewives at another level. This is like cooking sample. Women like me who cook sample, it takes its own time. So don't do a stir fry of your document. Take your own time. There's no emergency. And then I left. I don't know what happened thereafter. I'll ask Dr. Maloma to say. He keeps saying he never chaired. I chaired all meetings. I wasn't there.
Thank you, Chair. And I'm again speaking on behalf of the Section 22 committee. It's not my story. And then they are here to attest. Yes, the Chair left after clarifying issues, and we left with Professor Kulu now chairing the second meeting of the committee. And then among the agenda points that can be made available was the approval of the previous meeting minutes of the 31 October. The minutes were read by him, and immediately after reading the minutes, the committee decided they actually requested that he must go page by page to verify the facts. And it came out that some of the critical decisions that were made on 3031 were missing. And it became a huge debate. But I think it was disappointing to discover that he actually wrote the minutes. He chaired and he wrote the minutes. And we questioned that Chair, you can't chair and write the minutes, particularly if now there are missing information from the minutes. So we insisted that those missing details must be amended, must be effected in the amendment of the minutes before they can be approved. Then it was an issue because we were under impression that our document is going to be discussed so that we finalize that process. He then chose, instead of putting on the wall our document, he put his document there for the very first time. A very nice academic paper, headlined as it has been read. And then in fact we said, give us the summary, executive summary, and maybe conclusions, blah, 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 because we don't even have time. So he presented his stuff there. After presenting, the committee, without any reservation, rejected that document and said, Prof, this is your document. We encourage you to approach universities to publish it as an article or keep it safe until we have gone through the process of consultation with pastors, because this document has caused us so much harm in terms of public trust, because out there they think we have a document and this is your document. So we distance ourselves from your document and insisted, now go and read that. It's November now, we give you 2 months homework, you must study. He said, no, we're not gonna read it. We're not gonna read it. is a waste of time. You cannot bulldoze us with your document. And I think some of us, we almost said, but you are not a Madlanga commission. You know, this is a committee, section 22. You must lead us and guide us. Don't impose your document. So we resolved that we'll meet in February for a strategic plan in which we're going to finalize our document. However, something necessitated that we should meet rather urgently on the 17th and 18th of December. And Professor Kulu was also part of this meeting, wherein we requested that rather than postpone it to February, let's rather conclude our document, because people out there, when you go for interviews or people are asking, we can't give them anything on the table to work on. So we were really, really incapacitated. So we needed to have a document that we can circulate. So the process of developing that document went over 3 days, 17 and 18, and on the 19th we released our document. So he was part of that process. It was the document that we released on the 19th was robustly debated. And of course, the chairperson was there as an observer. I was asked to facilitate as a chairperson of the edit committee. We went through that document line by line, for 2 days. At the end of that process, I was then requested to present it to the press on the 19th. We also presented a summary of the press statement on the 19th of December. Of course, the chairperson at that time, like he describes, he became totally uninvolved, totally disconnected. Even when you try to ask questions, he will just not comment. And unfortunately, he was observing the robust debates in the process of developing a document. And then anybody who has been involved in the production of any document, there are robust debates, and you go to and fro with ideas. But you're focusing on the document. Then what becomes important is the document, not the prior debates. And then come out and say, hey, they even said this, hey, they even said this, they're lying, it's not there, it will be there. No, that was a process of producing a document. Not, even when you write minutes, you don't write everything that is written. That so-and-so was smiling and angrily. You don't do that. You capture the decisions. So on the 19th, we called a press conference and successfully launched this document that we now call our Bible, so that the community of pastors out there can begin to engage with this document. It is now more than a month since we have released our document. No one in the country has objected to any part of the document. No one. All they're objecting on, like now they might object that he was sitting next to Kaluva, but they don't talk about the facts on the table. No one has complained about the document, and now there seems to be an attempt to prevent the process of engaging with the pastors, because Allah said, let us do our work, let's consult on the document, see what you like, what you don't like. This document is not Section 22 document. Is a guideline for discussion and consultation. Pastors are open to make inputs, to change, to improve, to debate, so that when we come to them in February, they can have a particular position. So we ended the December really on a high note, and then I noted some of the responses from FOSA. For the first time, it was very positive. No, this guy's, no, it's a nice thing, we'll respond in January, but no one up to now has objected to our guideline. And then, Chair, 13 January, you take over.
But before I take you there, 17 to 18 December, because there had been problems before, where he had tried to insert his document. I then gave a guarantee to some committee members who were agitated, thinking they are going to be bullied, this is going to happen. I said to them, I promise you I will sit in that meeting to ensure that the meeting is productive in terms of writing of the document. There are costs involved. We're not going to have a fruitless and wasteful expenditure meeting because it's disruptive. So instead, he sat here next to me for 2 days. I'm not exaggerating. He said absolutely nothing. As Dr. Maloma said, 2 hard days of heavy debates, heavy arguments, heavy convincing line by line of that document until they were satisfied. He kept quiet. At some point in one of the interviews, I heard him saying, I was told to say nothing. Oh, really now? Who told you? When did they tell you to say nothing? That is totally untrue. He could have participated. It's Dr. Maloma who was handling the document because he was part of the editorial team and the committee had asked that he leads the room through the document. The breakdown is happening. He realizes that the document he's been working on with his friends. This is an academic. Academics are not like us, you know, they become sensitive about their documents. So he is angry. I must say there's another Professor Sawa who was quoted in Kulu's document, Prof. Kulu's document, who then wrote a long letter which we are giving you, complaining about artificial intelligence that Kulu had used. He wrote a long thing addressing Kulu about what is wrong with this document. It didn't worry us or me because that document was not in existence anyway. It had nothing to do with us. If he is being told that is AI, it's his problem. We discovered this morning by the way, there was a video where Professor Sawa is being interviewed. This video was being shared amongst everyone. And I think even the CRL commissioners were given the video, and also I think the committee got the video, and a whole range of other people. We were going to fly the video today. Interestingly enough, the video is no longer available. It was there, really criticizing Professor Kulu. He is one of us now, let's be nice to him. But unfortunately, the paperwork is still there. We are going to give you proof beyond reasonable doubt that his peers thought his document was basically not what the paper it was written on. And he was forcing that document down the throat of the Section 22 committee members. We're now in December, we're all thinking, oh, peace. At least the document is out there. Other members are saying they'll use this time to be consulting with their big churches, big organizations, moving from place to place now that there's a document. He's got his own reasons why we had to do this document that are far-fetched and not the reality. The document was needed because you can't have a committee that does not say to the nation, this is what we think, this is where we're going to, this is what needs to happen. And then December comes and it goes, we're now 13 January 2026. The CRL Rights Commission received a copy of a media alert where the media and the nation were being invited to a press conference to be addressed by Prof. Ulu. He's saying he's addressing as the chairperson of the CRL Rights Section 22 Committee Chair. We then convened an emergency online meeting of all Section 22 members, including Professor Kulu, to discuss this development, which we knew nothing about. We needed to get a guarantee from the Section 22 committee members that they know something or they don't know anything. Before we react, we needed to be sure that they were aware that there is a press conference to be addressed by their chairperson. The Section 22 committee met and deliberated on the media alert about the press conference to be addressed by Professor Kulu. Professor Kulu, although he was sent the link, chose not to attend this online meeting, where he was supposed to explain to all of us what is this thing that is happening in Birchwood. Subsequent to this meeting, the Section 22 committee worked and passed a vote of no confidence in Professor Kulu's leadership and informed the CRL Rights Commission of this decision in writing. This proof will also be given to you so that you can be conscious of the sequence of events. And after receiving this, the Section 22 committee also released a statement distancing itself from Professor Kulu's press conference. After hearing that they know nothing about this Section 22 committee members, and he is saying he's going there as the CRL, Section 22 Committee Chairperson, I then wrote to him, the letter will be made available to you, a letter informing him to not, instructing him to not attend that press conference without the CRL Rights Commission approval and the approval of the Section 22 committee. So he gets this letter and the other letters about vote of no confidence and the distancing of the Section 22 members from his press conference. That is being facilitated by Freedom of Religion South Africa. Then on the morning, a few hours before the resignation to me, on the morning of the 15th of January. And then he had his press conference, etc., etc. I'll deal with maybe just one thing. press conference, he says, even more disturbing was the chair's personal fixation on Mr. Swain. I was told directly by the CRL chair that she had laid criminal charges against him for crimen injuria, that pressure was being exerted on SAPS via the Director of Public Prosecutions, Advocate Batoi, to ensure his arrest before Christmas, and that she hoped he would be imprisoned, facing 5 years in jail. Before I went to the Hillbrow police station to lay criminal charges, crimen injuria, charges against Michael Swain, we had a press conference here that some of you attended. I explained precisely what he had done. The thing that I did not say was how I got to know, because I'm not in religious WhatsApp groups and whatever. Firstly, to say I have a fixation on Michael Swain is a huge insult. I'm an old married woman. He accuses me of having a fixation against a man. Why am I having a fixation? It's an unfortunate term to use because it is insulting. It's got innuendos and undertones. And as a woman, I object vehemently to being insulted by Professor Kulu. One of the things we're gonna give you is Professor Kulu's affidavit, where he says, this is to swear, it's commissioned, this affidavit. We've just redacted his personal things and left his name. This affidavit is to swear that on the 10th of June 2025, while browsing social media platforms, I came across a document in the FOSA Facebook page. The document was titled CRL and State Regulation of Religion, Defending Religious Freedom Against State Control. That was what the document was called. The document had 56 pages. It also called for readers to support FOSA financially. I passed the document to the Civil Rights Commission chairperson because the contents of the document were factually inaccurate. That is the entirety of my interaction with the said document in June 2025. This is the whistleblower who then comes to say, I have a fixation with Michael Swain. He's the one who told you, hey, Michael Swain is insulting you this side. And I had to do the right thing and defend my integrity, my good name. When you say I have basically stolen money from the National Lotteries Commission, the word said she facilitated 1.5 million rands for the Cheryl Zondi Foundation, and then she inserted herself as the deputy chairperson of the Cheryl Zondi Foundation, obviously to go and steal the money earmarked for victims, poor people. We all know what is happening at the National Lotteries Commission. What this proves is that these people will stop at nothing. By these people, I include even Professor Musakulu. He tells me that these people are telling lies on affidavit. He comes back, he says, I have a fixation. And he accuses me of all sorts of things. He says that I want him to go to jail for 5 years. Even when I had the press conference, I said, I'm going to the police station so that this man can be arrested. I can say even today, I want him arrested. I will not say before Christmas because I don't control the system. He says, I went to Advocate Batohi to complain about SAPS. You all know the National Director of Public Prosecutions does not control SAPS. He said this at the press conference when some of you were there. I want this case to be finalized. I'm going to push for this case to be finalized. That I can attest to. No matter what they do, we must learn in this country that insulting people is not an option. We also, at some point, if you look, for instance, at the Facebook of the South African Church Defenders, that Facebook is about fake news about me. I've decided to report them to Facebook. As a Chapter 9 institution, we rely on the laws of this country, and we do what needs to be done. When you insult me, I don't go back home and look for Izinkab. I go to the police station down the road so that you are processed through the system. That's not fixation. That's dealing with what he himself said on affidavit, that is the one who was the whistleblower. Now that they are friends with Forza, he needs to rewrite the whole truth and bring in untruths. That for us is the truth. You can tell when this breakdown happened. It happened in December because his document, his white paper, failed dismally. He is saying the Section 22 is working on regulations. He is the one who was working on those regulations. So he now owns this paper and gives it to the Section 22 committee. So Biake should tell us when the documents will be ready, because we don't have the luxury of just talking. We have the responsibility to back it all up with written documents. I will hand over to the doctor again.
Yeah.
Maybe before that, Chair, just to indicate to colleagues that most of you do have the documents in the file, but those that don't have the documents that have been referred to will be sent through via email as soon as we are concluding the process. And we are about to conclude.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm quite sensitive about the time. I think we have wanted to do more, but I think it's important to fly through just a few minutes a summary of the committee's response or defense in terms of its processes and its document. And we want to refer the country back to the document we released in December. That remains our document, and we are looking forward to implementing it from February. But just to summarize the and debunk some of the untruths that are out there in the public. And these untruths or criticisms comes from various stakeholders, and then we want to, comprehensively but briefly debunk them. And this document we're going to circulate widely as well. Untruth number one is that the framework imposes state control or creates a state versus church conflict. And what the draft framework says in section 1 in the preamble, it explicitly acknowledges and rejects the narrative. We start off by saying, notwithstanding that any form of regulating the Christian sector, including self-regulation, is used as a scarecrow to instill fear and hype up negativity towards the Section 22 committee. Section 7.1 of our document is unequivocal. This draft self-regulatory framework is not about state control of religion. It is a proactive, voluntary initiative by the Christian community. And the guiding principle, one, is autonomy with responsibility, defined as respect for doctrinal independence, balanced with voluntary ethical self-guidance. And truth number, the verdict on that one, we are saying this is blatantly untrue. The framework proactively detects and dismisses this particular scare tactic. The draft framework is constitutionally based and voluntarily, and we really want to challenge anyone on that. The second untruth is that the mandate is to impose compulsory legislative framework. What the framework says is, the document is consistently titled Self-Regulatory Framework. 2.3 of the document covers creating a framework for establishing a Christian-led practice council for voluntary registration. The implementation mechanism that we are proposing in Section 6 is the Independent Christian Practice Council for Ethics and Accountability, not a government legislature. The entire Section 6 details a sector-owned implementation mechanism. The verdict there is that this is a misrepresentation. The legislative framework in the mandate refers to the enabling structure for a sector-led self-regulatory system as detailed in the draft. The outcome is a voluntary code and council, not a state-imposed. And then maybe I'll jump some of the others and then go to some that I think are very critical. The committee seeks to undermine theological diversity or specific doctrines. This is not true. What the framework says, guiding principle number 6, is requiring accommodation of all Christian institutions, regardless of size, of type of Christian institution. That is, for example, traditional versus contemporary. Nobody is being discriminated. In the glossary in our document, it defines Christian organizations as united by faith, but varying in structure, governance, practice, worship, service, and activities. The pillar of ethical conduct, 5.2, regulates behavior, not belief. It neither mentions nor interferes with specific doctrines, such as the fivefold ministry or absolution. I don't have time to talk more about that. So the verdict is that this untruth is untrue. The framework is doctrinally neutral. Its purpose is ethical and governance standards, respecting all theological traditions within the Christian sector. And maybe this one is also important. The process is exclusionary, is politicized or racialized, is a new thing that is emerging now. But what the framework says is, in terms of our Annexure A, this is very important. We present a comprehensive roadmap and consultation process involving 13 stakeholder groups, including all umbrella organizations, denominational leaders, fraternals, individual pastors, dare I say that, abuse survivors, theologians, and the public. Section 5.2.8 of the Code of Conduct mandate that mandates treating all with dignity, irrespective of race, gender, ethnicity, or socioeconomic status. The framework's primary purpose is to strengthen the church's moral witness and public trust, not to engage in politics. So this untruth is contradicted by the framework. The draft calls for a broadly inclusive national consultation and explicitly prohibits discrimination. The claims are challenged by the document's intended process and principles, and we'll give you this to read the other three. And we therefore call on the church community throughout the country to say, we are not going backward, we are going forward. Section 22 is not going to be collapsed. It's a legitimate, constitutional, legally established entity. It has got a document that it has drafted. In February early, we will be meeting to draft out an action plan, and we are going to visit the churches across the country, and nobody will stop us. So people must just give up, because the church belongs to the church, and this process is about the church, with the church, and for the church. So I think we need to emphasize that, and I want to thank you, ladies and gentlemen, because I don't want to delay you any further, and we had other comments to make, but I think this is what we wanted to wrap up with. And thank you for your patience.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Dr. Mulamu. Just a quick correction. In the document written chronology, 6 February, there was a typo there. Instead of February 2025, it's February 2026. So if you can just correct that. But in the final document that will go on our platforms, it will be having the corrected version. We will also be circulating this as digital copies to all of those that have written their names and their particulars. Can I just get some questions? I'll take 5 questions so that we move towards the closure of the press. I'll take 5 people at the time. Let me start. Okay, you see the hands. You can raise this minimum 2 questions as the media house. So say you tell us your name, then the 2 questions if there are 2 or 1 question. The name, the media house, and the question. So let me see the hands. So the hand this side. Okay. And then you see the hand there. I see another hand. So I'll take those 3 for now. Okay. Let me start here. I'll come this side and then yeah.
Can you give them the mic?
Good morning, it's Mikanya, NDN TV. For now, I only have 1 question. In your statement, Chair, you indicated that Prof. Kulu used the Commission's letterhead in his document. Does the Commission intend to pursue legal action against him for the alleged unauthorized official letterhead? Thank you.
Okay, thanks. We take the question, that side. There was a hand this side. Yeah, okay. That's okay.
In the document, it's just to add to my colleague's question, in the document that Prof. Kulu presented and prepared for you, what was the difference between the 2 documents? Is the biggest point of contention the desire for self-regulation in the religious industry? Incorrect, which would have caused some other industries or other faiths to come and lay criminal charges or relay charges or to take the CRL to court. Thank you.
Thanks. There was a question this side.
Hello. Thank you very much. Good afternoon. My name is Cliff from Current FM News. Just one question, which I think has been touched already by Dr. Maloma, to say the resignation of the chairperson, how will this dent the work of the committee? And have you started the process of appointing a new chairperson? Thank you.
Okay, we will respond to these questions for now, then in a second. Chair.
Okay, thanks. The illegal use of the letterhead, I think it came from you, Sisi. It is illegal to basically steal a letterhead of any institution, as I said. We will be tabling this at our next plenary. For plenary, as I said, we tend to take decisions jointly. For plenary to then look at what steps should be taken about this. We'll then, once decided, we'll come back to you if plenary, which should sit before end of March. What decision has been taken, we'll issue a statement to say this is the final decision. We're going to charge him or we're not going to charge him. Maybe the lawyers will write a letter to him telling him to desist or something like that. What is the bone of contention in the Section 22 document, I take it? Since the other document has nothing to do with us, it's Kolu's document. He talks about draft legislation, he talks about white paper. We, as Dr. Maloma has said, have not received any objections to the document released on the 19th of December. The court papers are objecting to a white paper that talks about a regulation. Even if you look at Forza's Facebook and you listen to the videos he posts there, and you look at the church defenders, they are talking about regulation of religion. We're not doing that. We have said repeatedly, we want this matter to be settled once and for all in court, because then they need to bring irrefutable proof that the CRL at any given stage has produced a white paper and that the CRL wants to regulate a religion. And that the Section 22 committee members from these big organizations and big churches are colluding with the CRL to regulate a religion. They'll have to produce the proof when they get to court. We've never said a religion must be regulated. We've always said the Christians themselves must solve their problems. And we still stand by that. That like lawyers, like everybody else, they solve their own problems. Even judges, when they have problems, they solve their own problems with their members. So, Sisi, we don't know what their bone of contention exactly is. We can check with our lawyers if we're allowed maybe to release the court papers. If we're allowed in a week or so, because it's quite thick documents, will then release them, because there seems to be this thing that keeps them going to court that we don't know about. But maybe the public can then make up their minds of compare the Section 22 document that was released on the 19th and what they are taking to court actually. Is there any relationship between the two? I would say there isn't any relationship. And then the issue of the appointment of the chairperson. The committee has not set after the resignation of Professor Kulu. There was a resolution in one of the meetings of the Section 22 committee that they would like to nominate a name after their own process, which they will then give to the CRL, because the CRL acts as the commission must appoint a chairperson. So it's the CRL that will appoint after a process has happened. The next meeting is sometime in February. We'll announce the chairperson after that February meeting, which we decided on because the Baptist Nazareth Church, popularly known as Ushembe, they're still up the mountain, never Mshong. Yeah, but they're still up the mountain. And so we'll wait for them to finish that process, and then we will go into that next meeting.
Can I, yeah.
Yeah.
Can I just add on the response to Mbalenhle from SABC regarding the differences between the two documents? I think, though the chair has said it, the main difference is the process, first of all. The Section 22 committee's terms of reference was to develop its own guideline. And then ours is a guideline for discussion, it's not a policy. The other document proposes a policy. And then you can also know now, it's public knowledge, that even that document is being rejected by academics as, I think, directly talking plagiarism and so on, using the AI and so on. So the problem that now, I think, sits with FOSA and SA Church Defenders, now that they have earned a friend in Professor Kulu, what are they going to do about the case that they opened against him around the same document? So that is a problem that they need to address the nation on. But the difference is, with us, is not a policy document, it's a discussion document. It's not perfect. It's still going to be shaped and influenced by church leaders across the country. His was supposed to be endorsed by us and be finalized, sent to Parliament, if that was the case. But we understood that it cannot be a white paper, because Section 22 does not have the power to develop white papers. I think that distinction is very important. You want to add that?
I think one other part is the emphasis on the ethical side of things here. I keep on, they get tired of me in the meetings because I bring in that aspect all the time. Is that let us actually look at some of the things that are recommended by Professor Kulu are things that today we're sitting with some Professor Sawa, who is demanding some kind of protection on intellectual property. Now that sits, imagine if this paper, we had accepted it, we would not be able to distance ourselves from this paper if the Section 22 accepted this paper. And we were very strong. And you know, my problem also, people, is that it was Professor Kulu who actually requested that we actually even go into these teams and develop a document. And he knew at the time that he had a document somewhere. And then when we have developed this document, then he says, here's a document. Now, that to me is being very unethical. And we cannot take that unethical practice into the public, at least. I've not spoken about religion, church. I've just spoken about ethics. So it's just a pity that I think even Forza hurriedly called that press conference, having not interrogated what they've put out there in the open. And again, SABC, the lady from SABC, what worries me in this whole thing is that now, maybe if there was a process of Forza and them all sitting down and saying, let's talk, let's look at this, and we have made those advances, and there's never been some kind of a document. And again, I'll go back. The people who are drinking petrol are still the people, the women and children. And you can go on with that list. And some people, yeah, well, maybe as someone said, that is the exercise that some people are blocking and go to even the extremes of stealing our chair.
Thank you. I think more questions, then we close off.
I just want to emphasize on the question, because I had to go out, age is counting. You have to go. It's Prof himself, when he was sitting there, that the document that we are producing is not a final document. It's a living document that will be corrected as we engage with constituencies out there. So there's no way that we could have produced a white paper. White paper, when we circulate it, it's something that informs a period. So therefore, our document is a living document. We wasted time now, because in February we were supposed to be hitting the ground to consult with our constituencies. And I can report, last night we had our special general meeting of members throughout the country who were engaging on this subject, who said they support this process on condition that what we are discussing here is not to legislate changes. That's what I actually say. We are mindful of the irregularities that are happening in our name by unscrupulous pastors and practitioners who are behaving unethically. So the religious communities out there, they want to regulate themselves, making sure that those policies, the constitutions that they have, they make sure that they are followed to the letter and their members are safe, and they have to correct the behavior of other people who are misusing the religiosity of our people, because our people are so religious. Whatever you can tell them, they will do it. And therefore, we really need to make sure that we stop this thing of abusing people who believe and listen to us from the pulpit, not thinking that what we say is exactly what God says must be done, whereas it's horror sometimes things that we do and misuse the faith of people. So we say we will make sure that we keep to what the document that we have produced says, to go to consult, we start consultations, and out of that consultation, we will now make those comments and formulate a report that will be presented. And one thing that maybe was not reported on, there is this thing of saying the CRL Commission is actually running the show. We have a team of, we call secretariat. That's what the commission has offered us, that we should not struggle to compile the minutes and so on. This team, the CRL is only in our room through its secretariat to making sure that they document the discussions. But we are the ones who will, this will be our deliberations, not the commission's deliberations. So we promise society and the nation out there that we are not here as pawns, people who are going to be manipulated for other reasons that are known, because we are representing constituencies here. We are not here because, as the document produced by Prof, that people were just picked up and opted for other reasons. We are here, we report somewhere after the meetings. So we really want to say to the public, we owe you to come to your districts, to your locals, to your provinces. Please, let's work together collaboratively. Thank you very much.
We need to move towards closure. Okay. Okay, can we start here and then go back here? I think with that we will close the press. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Opangwe. I'm a freelance actor. My question is directed to Dr. Noma. My interest is the point he has made. The difference between behavior and belief. In this country, Timothy Omatoso is an example of a bad behavior. No one can dispute that. What worries me in this country is, why is it that people who should know better cannot make a difference between belief and behavior and make a war that seems to suggest the CRL wants to regulate religion? The question again is, why are people who should know better within the religious fraternity finding it difficult to make a difference between behavior and belief, Dr. Noma?
Let me take the last question this side.
Thank you so much, Biganyo MDN TV. My question is in connection with the criteria used to select a Christian representative, and how will the CRL respond to allegation that major Christian groups, particularly the Pentecostal and the Christian churches, were marginalized and excluded? Thank you so much.
Chair, over to you. And Dr. Malone.
Okay, let me, why don't I start?
Yeah, you start.
Yeah, with Datengwenya's question, very good one. I think Datengwenya, this really disturbs me and baffles me. It baffles me, and one big weakness we have, and I'm talking here as a Christian, Pentecostal charismatic, by the way, reformed by training. Now, what baffles me is that people, I'm talking about leaders now. Our leaders don't read. That's one, they don't read. We allow somebody to dictate the narratives for us. And I've realized that no matter how much you explain it, they don't want to understand or differentiate between belief and behavior, because the constitution of the country would not allow anyone in this country to regulate belief, doctrine, your practice. Whether you are Episcopal or Presbyterian or congregational, fivefold, onefold, bishop, we can't regulate that. But this is where I think the problem is for me. The problem for me is that, and now that something has been exposed today, the problem for me is that FOSA, for example, and we have engaged FOSA outside this ST side somewhere. Our problem with FOSA is to say, you seem to be having a concept of religion that seems to be Eurocentric and abstract. You know, a kind of religion that James, the brother of Jesus in chapter 1, says is not the kind of religion God wants. The kind of religion God wants is a religion that responds to the poor and the widow and the orphans in distress. And that seems to be a difficulty to accept. And my difficulty is also, if you have not lived in the township, if you have not lived with the poor, if you don't know what it is to run a church in a squatter camp, it's very difficult to say, because Fossa says that, and I'm not making it up. They can challenge me on this. They say they don't care how these people deals with their problems, because regulation is there. You know, crime can be taken care of. They don't care. So their occupation is on defending, I would say, defending the powerful perpetrators. And this is really, really hurting. And then those that are funded and motivated and influenced by them, who are in the townships, they don't want to see this. The last thing I want to say, if you want to interpret the motive of people's protests, go and watch the footage in Cape Town when they marched. Go and watch that footage. It's all over. Nobody talks about it. The flags that are being waged there, there's no South African flag. There's no South African flag. The flags are blue and white with a star in the middle. And you have to critically engage and say, is this really the agenda here? It's not about religion and freedom. It's about fueling and sowing hatred and anger amongst black pastors, so that their anger and hatred against their government, not even a party, a government, can be utilized somewhere. I'm crossing the lines because I'm really, really deeply hurt, because no matter what you throw, no matter what you explain, you know, I've got a doctor friend of mine. I mean, I send him the document, read the document, we engage. No, 2 minutes he comes, no, explain this. But I said, you have not read the document. Read the document and let's engage. So that then going, this is a very critical thing. So I think South Africa needs to wake up. And this thing of saying churches were excluded, the chair will answer. I'm a Pentecostal, I am a charismatic. Pastor Ray, Pastor Joshua is a charismatic. He's in this committee. You know, SACC accommodates charismatics and Pentecostals. Now, there are many independent charismatic churches. Acknowledge that. And some of them are mega churches by definition. My thesis in PhD was on mega churches. A definition of a mega church is a minimum of 2,000 attendees on Sunday. So there are many of those individual churches. We are not disregarding them. We are saying we are coming. There's a document. We are coming. We're going to talk to you. So no one is excluded. Yes, there's a problem because many mega churches of 2,000 minimum, there are many. Now, the room, there's not going to be representativity. You know? I mean, it is said that SACC has got 20 million followers, but there are only 2 people here. But if SACC sit on the corner, why is Madlala and not conclude by saying, this Section 22 committee is not a permanent committee, it's an ad hoc. It's going to lead to a Christian Practice Council, which will be informed, its formation will be informed by the process of consultation. Then the very same pastors, if they position themselves and they qualify, they might find themselves in the council. I'm old, I'm not going to be there forever. I'm here for processing this. So I think people are missing it. The council is what we are proposing. The council is going to be formed by churches. And then it will regulate the churches, for the churches, with the churches. So these narratives that are being bended in the media space are so unfortunate. And I'm glad that today, because of what Forza did, we can now call it out. And one was not prepared to go this route. But this narrative, because after this, they're going to send a clip. He says they're going to quote something I've never said in context. He's a racist, he's what, but that's not the case. The case is, yes, we have to ask because we are a white organization. We have to ask because, yes, you are coming from UK. That's not the problem. The problem is, why don't you appreciate the fact that we have victims? We have poor people, we have oppressed people. Why don't you appreciate that? And the majority in this country still in that. These patrols, these people losing pension funds, majority of them are blacks. Even as we speak right now, colleagues, I'm sorry to say this, even as we speak right now, money is taken in black bags, whatever it is crossing over boundaries to Malawi. Even as we speak right now. Money is crossing over. Professionals are retiring, they take their money. Pastors that are planted in the community here, without disclosing, they're still running the business of Bushiri, who is a fugitive. Every month and money goes. We in the churches who have friends and families, we get these stories. But someone says, no, freedom of religion. Freedom of religion is a facade. The blue flags in Parliament says something.
Thank you. Chair, your last comment?
Okay. Dr. Maloma has covered the issue of Pentecostal and charismatic churches. When we started, before this committee was established, because we had worked very well with Pastor Ray Macaulay, was late by the time we got reappointed. My first meeting, even before the strat plan, I met with Pastor Giet because he's part of the IFCC. What does it stand for? International
Fellowship of
Federation
Charismatic Churches.
Of charismatic churches. That was my first stop. Because Pastor Ray Macaulay had been guiding us in saying, no, this is not going to take you anywhere. This might work, but to make it work, do it this way. We relied on the charismatic churches to build this group. So saying we excluded charismatic churches, I'm not sure what that means. A few months ago, we had a meeting with the IFCC again where they had questions and we answered all their questions. The people who are deliberately excluding, you don't talk to them. With the Pentecostals, as you said, I'm sitting next to one. So there's this illusion being created. I've always said, no one knows how many churches are in this country. How many religious leaders are in this country? Some people say 300,000 or whatever. And I've said we went for the super mega churches because we're about covering majority. One of the things suddenly Professor Kulu says is that he's not convinced that the people in the room are more than 40 million. My answer to him is that he must go study mathematics and add the numbers. As far as we know, the SACC is still in the room. Ubaba Mwerane is part of the SACC. Their representatives are still participating. It's only Professor Kulu who knows that they are no longer part of this group. So there are many fantasies that are out there. If you walk away from a group, you would let the group know and the reasons why you are walking away. But there's this illusion that the numbers don't tally. it's a mathematical thing. We all know how big the ZCC is. They say it's the biggest church in SADC, others say it's the biggest church in the continent. Google will tell you, or his artificial intelligence people or Grok or whoever. But we know the numbers for a fact. We've asked, for instance, Nazareth Baptist Church. As the media, you know, you're talking massive people. Ubaba Mhlongo here. I'll let him have the last word at some point, Yake, about the branches and how they've come together here. And that is very critical, that this is not just about willy-nilly stuff that we did. Even government finds it hard to bring everyone on board. We've said we're going to work hard to bring all of them on board. I remember as we're going to KZN, Enanda, Gupi, talking to all Amakos, because we wanted inclusivity. And we knew we're doing a mathematical calculation. How big is the South African Council of Churches? How big is TISA? You can sit at the press conference and say, I'm not convinced. Well, it's his problem. He must do maths and add up. The numbers are huge. I'm always in awe when I walk into the room of the Section 22 committee. And I don't even think politicians can bring in so many people, because you represent the numbers into one room to work on a particular vision and agree on that vision. So no one is excluded. Everyone, as Dr. Maloma has repeatedly said, we should be now talking about where are we going, when. After the February 2 day strat plan, we're going to release a program of where they will be. So everyone, he says these will be closed meetings. We have said we'll put it in the media. Section 22 will be in Durban, City Hall on this date, this time. So how are you going to exclude people? He says there'll be tear gas and there'll be guns, there'll be whatever. I don't know what he's talking about. When you bring a certain number of people into one room, you have to have security, obviously. Even if it's a party, you must have security once the numbers are big. So, yeah, shame. He has his version of things. We have our truth. We will also go further, because I would like you to know what we're dealing with. There's this group, WhatsApp group called Indonza. He is the, what is it called, administrator of Indonza. We will share some of the things he's been saying there. Part of his allegations is that the CRL is an MKP formation. He's a professor, you should know the CRL, even just the act. The CRL is in the Constitution of 1996. The act is 2002. We started operating 2004. I don't know how the MKP could play a role in that. He says he's going to extract the ANC from the CRL Commission. Were they ever here? One thing you must do as whoever gets appointed in a Chapter 9 institution is to walk away from all your political positions. He claims the ANC is here, is going to remove them in the process of removing Kaluva. He has joined the church defenders. He is welcome there, is in good company. Truth is not a thing to worry about there. He's joined the right family, and personally, I would like to congratulate him for finding the right family. I hope he thrives there, because I think he needs that kind of space where untruths are allowed. I guess ubaba uMhlongo ke.
Mhlawumbe 2 minutes
Bese siyavala ke baba uMhlongo. Uzobeka ngesizulu ke. Ubaba uMhlongo bese ngithi ukutolika kancane.
Yeah. Oh, there's another one.
Ngesikhathi se-TRC emabandleni obuKristu kwakufanele kube khona abayovuma ukuthi basicindezele njengamabandla ayimele ayekhona eMzansi. Ngicabanga ukuthi abantu abafana noSihlalo besinayo abanye babantu abakholelwa ekutheni alikho elinye ibandla likaNkulunkulu ngaphandle kokuba umKristu. Bengakuzanga ukuthi sisondele kangakanani ebuKristwini. Bebuka engathi uphaphiwe khona kwabekho ukuthi ababuzi ukuthi ngihleli nobani la. Mebona ufaka ibhisho athi nengqondo ibhisho. Ngifuna ukushintsha kodwa okudala esigijime ukumemeza i-CRL ukuthi sineyinhlungu ebesithothwa ngokuba khona kwe-CRL njengamaNazaretha. Sisondele njengamakholwa amaziyo uJesu, amaziyo uKristu, futhi agcinayo imfundiso yakhe. Umehluko ukuthi thina siyiqala from iTorah, sikhuphuke siye nakusho iTestamente elisha. Ngenye indlela kubona bonke abantu abangekho. Uma uya ko-350 abakhishwa i-government, ngeke umbone umlungu ngoba kayidingi. Abantu uzobathola lapha abamnyama. Nala njengoba sihlangene la sikhuluma ngey'nhlungu ezenziwa abantu bakithi abamnyama. Amanye amasonto ngeke asondele ngoba ayingxenye yoku-abuse ukulunga kwabantu abamnyama. Ngisokhosini isikhathi esiningi ngizokhuluma ngosizo oluthola abantu. Njalo uma ngiqeda inkonzo, baba Mhlongo uyakhuphula yini? Ukukhuphula ukuthi umuntu umthandazele umnike okwesigujana ukuze abe nemali. Ukuba ngikwazi usizo lomuntu omnyama, ngakuthi ukuthi 3,000 ngikukhuphulele. Ngicabanga ukuthi sihlanganele kakhulu la ukuvika labantu abathatha 3,000 bathi umuntu ngizokukhuphulele uzothola imali. Silana-ke njengamaNazaretha ngoba abanye abahlukumeze kakhulu ukukholwa kwethu okubhalwe eBhayibhelini ukuthi ungakwenzi ukuthi nokuthi abakwenza lokho ngoba bezonda inkolo yobuNazaretha. Asizile ukuzovikela amaNazaretha kuphela, kodwa sila ukuzovikela wonke umuntu owazi uNkulunkulu. Sizokumela lokho kusuka manje kuzobe sekugcineni. Kunothisha abamile, omunye wasitshela kahle wathi ngiyalizonda nje ibandla lini. Imfundiso-ke ayithole ebandleni lakhe. Samkhipha esikoleni, akekho esikoleni njengamanje, kodwa usizo salithola la endlini ku-CRL. Ingakho ngithi kwakufanele abanye babafundisi ngesikhathi se-TRC kwakufanele behambe bokusho ukuthi ngesikhathi sokulwela ubandlululo nathi amabandla ayebagcinezela abamnyama. Ngiyabonga.
Chair, we must summarize in 1 minute. 1 minute.
During the TRC, certain other religious people should have gone there to say we have oppressed other religious groupings. We all know that religious groupings like the Baptist Nazareth Church was not recognized as a church until post-freedom. The CRL Rights Commission, as it says, has been working very closely with the Baptist Nazareth Church to fight discrimination of their children, their people who are in employment, who are forced to cut their hair when they know pretty well that it's a religious right not to cut their hair. And he says the previous chairperson, Babukulu, also tended to have those kinds of thoughts. He says, when we were called, we came together as believers of Jesus Christ, from the Torah to the New Testament. The other churches do not seem to appreciate the problems of Black people. They do not seem to understand the challenges that are faced by Black people. He says the 350, you find that it's only Black people who are collecting the 350. Black people maybe even in the broader sense. And that people don't seem to appreciate that. I must say that we've really appreciated having a diverse group of people in one room all the time. And we're looking forward, Biake, to call them back after the strat plan to inform the public about the consultation process.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, all members of the Section 22 Committee, CEO, colleagues in the media. We really appreciate the time that we have taken, all the support staff and support colleagues from other organizations and churches that are here to provide the support. We appreciate that we have taken so much time when we started with the challenge in terms of the literacy. This press is now closed. Thank you.